Oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. We'll start with some motivation and quiet practice. So, as far as the posture goes, I think everybody here and online don't need much reminder about the posture, physical posture. One could just, again, remind people of the great significance of the posture, not just physiologically, but psychologically. Upright, stable, upright posture representing or helping us to develop healthy self-confidence. And that could be spoken about later, but we definitely need a tremendous amount of perseverance, effort on the path. And so for that, we need a good amount of confidence in ourselves, without, of course, it leading or veering on arrogance or self-promotion. That's not what's being spoken about, but a healthy self-confidence and the openness of the posture in the front of the body, we could say, is representing our willingness to communicate with others, since we're in this situation in life, dependent on other people. We have been since before we were born. So to pretend that we are not connected and that we have or we don't want to be connected with others, this is an impossibility. And so here we recognize that situation of interdependence, interconnectedness, together with the understanding that everybody, whoever they are, including animals, wish to be happy, don't want any kind of suffering at all. So therefore, open-hearted communication and concern and work with others makes a lot of sense. So therefore, the posture is one that invites openness and communication with other beings. We're not hiding or closing down, which it is quite easy to do sometimes. And although in this text and in commentaries on it, there's this talk of how the compassion motivated person who is striving towards full awakening, how they perhaps can at some point attain a state of not needing any privacy, in the sense that they are completely open at all times to the needs of others. We can just start where we are right now, but recognize that that is something that might be attainable, might be a possibility for a human being to be completely open and available for others at pretty much all times. So anyway, this was some thoughts and comments connected with the posture. And it's already introduced the motivation factor, which is, why should we bother to even be here and sit here? There could be so many other things we could do with this time, especially the people who have come to Tushita from far away, relatively far away. But even all of you online, you're taking time off to engage in this. So why? Why should one bother? There's lots of other entertainments and things you could be doing. Washing those clothes or cooking an extra dish for supper, whatever. So the motivation could be that, given the precarious situation we are in, and I'm not just referring to the current situation of the planet collectively, that of course is cause for great concern right now, but on the individual level, according to Lord Buddha, we are in a state of confusion and unsatisfactoriness based on ignorance of our true nature, which leads us to behave in all kinds of unwholesome ways that lead to more and more confusion, more and more unsatisfactoriness, more and more pain. And so therefore, motivation is to find the root of this and uproot it, and uproot it not only so that oneself may be free or liberated, but also so that we could be of greater benefit for other people, for others on whom we depend and who have been very kind to us in many ways. However much we may be suffering right now, partly due to the actions of others, in the long term, if we think about it, we wouldn't be alive today were it not for the efforts and the actions of other people, starting with the mother and ending today with the people who grow and provide us with everything that keeps us alive. And the people who give us jobs to earn money to buy those things that keep us alive. So we're in that state of connectedness with others. So we remember that, and we remember how others want to be happy just like us. We're not unique in thinking that we're so important. Everybody thinks they're important. Everybody wants, needs kindness, happiness, and so forth. So the motivation can be through coming here to Tushita, might not just be a passing of the time or something to do out of curiosity or boredom at home, but there's a sense that one could make one's life quite meaningful. Maybe not immediately, but through reflecting on this, given the power of thought, this can have a profoundly beneficial effect on the mind, short and long term. So just think about this, how we're connected with others, how we depend on them, and how life's purpose and meaning may very well be largely connected with how we interact with others and whether we can be of benefit to them or not. And whether the life lived just for oneself is really that worthwhile, only for oneself, largely for oneself. So spend a few minutes on this, please, before we engage in the breath awareness practice. Okay, so we may have this motivation, but somehow we have to put it into practice. How to do that? Especially how to do that, given that our mind is a cauldron of conflicting emotions very often, and hopes and fears and anxieties and cravings, ambitions, hatreds, all sorts of things are churning through our mind various times. So initially we need to calm down and stabilize this wild elephant of a mind, this monkey mind. So for that, there are the basic practice of awareness of breath, for example, where we take the sensation of breath as the main focus. Although we do not fixate or concentrate on it in an uptight way, the gentle awareness of the breath within the context of everything else that is also happening with the body and the atmosphere and sounds, for example. But the primary focus will be on the incoming and outgoing breath, if we can, at the nostrils, the sensation there at the nostrils, the tip of the nostrils. Or if that's difficult, then the rising and falling of the abdomen as we breathe in and out. And we simply are aware of it. We are not commenting or anything like that, just simply aware of the breath. And there can be a sense of letting go and relaxing, especially with the out breath. We don't need to feel to control the breath, just let it happen, normal breathing. There will be changes in the breath pattern, possibly. Just let that happen. It's not pranayama or breath control practice, it's breath awareness. Thoughts and emotions, sensations come and go. Don't get carried away by them, especially the thinking process, which can take us into the past, into the future, and so forth in an instant. Be aware of that, just let it go. Let go and come back to the breath without there being any problem about it. It's not a fault to be distracted. It's totally natural and normal. Just let it go and come back to the breath. So let's sit like this quietly for a few minutes. If you get tired, take a break and then start again, especially for beginners. 3 or 4 minutes at a stretch is probably plenty. We'll sit for 7 or 8 minutes, so if you need a break in between, just take it. Let there be a sense of stillness, a sense of relaxation, but together with a state of being very, very vigilant, very alert, very attentive. Okay. So let's continue with this text and just remind ourselves. Shantideva, totally misunderstood by his fellow students at Nalanda University way back in the 8th century, who thought he was a good for nothing, since all they could see him doing was eating, sleeping, and going to the toilet. That's what he did during the daytime. They didn't realize he was up all night, utilizing the quiet of the night to engage in his meditation practices. He was actually a very extraordinary person. We regard him as being what we call a bodhisattva, someone who had dedicated his life to the welfare of others in a very spontaneous way, not in a spiritually materialistic sort of way. He was not someone who promoted himself. He just spontaneously worked for others. He had trained his mind, maybe over many lifetimes, Buddhists might say, trained his mind to have that genuine, spontaneous attitude of benefiting others in many skillful ways. And this was one of the ways. He's regarded to have been a Mahasiddha, which suggests that he had many, many abilities, many ways of benefiting others. One of them was to give this particular teaching, which came about because people were trying to actually humiliate him so that he would leave the university, thinking that he was a good for nothing. But he utilized that occasion to give this extraordinary text, to recite this extraordinary text. Anyway, its purpose is to help us, you could say in short, it's to activate our Buddha nature, although it's not spoken of in such terms in the text. But if we can generate such an extraordinary state of mind as this great compassionate mind of Bodhichitta, or the wish to aspiration to highest enlightenment for the sake of others, if we can actually engage in that, it means that we have the potential to do that. So how come we have the potential for that? There has to be something very extraordinary within our mind, which is not of the nature of the superficial sort of stuff that keeps on circling, the hopes and fears and expectations, anxieties, ambitions, etc., that are circulating all the time. It's obviously a deeper level of awareness or mind, one might say, than that. So, of course, in Buddhism, we do speak of the Buddha nature, a pristine level of awareness, which in many of us remains undiscovered due to being preoccupied with the more superficial gross levels of consciousness and mind. So we never really activate or see that deeper level. Maybe very occasionally have glimpses, but we don't really understand and we quickly forget. But according to the teachings, this pristine level of awareness can be cultivated, can be activated, maintained, and brought to its full conclusion, which is to become a fully awakened person, a Buddha. So all of us can become Buddhas. This is the wonderful, heartening teaching of the Mahayana, of Mahayana Buddhism, that it's not just that there was one Buddha 2,500 years ago, and that's it. No, all of us have that potential to become fully awakened. And all that is stopping us is the current imprisonment in the jail of the disturbing emotions, klesh, the deluded states of mind based on ignorance. So Shantideva in this text has been encouraging us to think about and aspire towards this awakening mind. Bodhichitta, we say in Sanskrit. Bodhi is awakening. Yeah, awakening. Chit is mind. Chit, aware is mind, yeah, consciousness. There are many, many, many terms apparently in Sanskrit and Tibetan for mind, various aspects of mind. But in general here, chit means the awakening mind, the mind. So Shantideva in chapter 1 has spoken about how wonderful this mind is, how it should be cultivated, how rare it is, but how possible it is. He says there's no comparable friend to this kind of mind, so that if we could awaken it, it would be something wonderful, would fulfill our purpose. He speaks of that in the context of a very tragic reality, which is that although beings want happiness, as he says, ignorantly they run towards suffering, not knowing the causes of happiness and habitually being used to the causes of sorrow. We keep on creating the causes of misery and confusion. Yeah, we keep on doing that. Thank you. There are some texts, yeah, for those who don't have the online version. So then in chapter 2, disclosure of wrongdoing, Shantideva speaks about what gets in the way of this mind and how important it is to recognize that the lifespan is fleeting. We're going to die. We don't know when we're going to die. And if we die without having trained our mind, it's going to be very difficult. And he says that everything we take for granted or consider important right now is going to disappear. Everything is going to pass away. Friends, relations, enemies, everything, oneself. So what's the point of clinging to these things? Everything's like a dream experience. But I've accumulated so much negativity, in connection with friends and enemies and strangers. In other words, I've been very attached to friends and nasty to enemies and indifferent to strangers. I've created all kinds of unwholesomeness. So what's going to happen to me is, if I don't purify my mind, if I don't take this seriously, I'm going to have a very miserable time, especially at the time of death. So there's a kind of a wake-up call, this chapter. It's trying to show us that although the awakening mind is a wonderful thing, a wonderful, amazing thing, state, but there's all these hindrances. Our wrongdoing, our negativity so far has been getting in the way of achieving this extraordinary state of mind. Then in chapter 3, he speaks of the full acceptance of the awakening mind. He rejoices in what this mind actually entails and what its benefits are. He aspires to be a source of whatever others need for their happiness. So there are verses, such as in chapter 3, verse 8, let's say, may I be the doctor, the medicine, may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed, and so forth. He's encouraging himself and us to develop this extraordinary state of mind, so that we are glad to be, as in verse 19 of chapter 3, May I be an island for those who seek an island. May I be a lamp for those desiring light. May I be a bed for all who wish to rest, and a slave for all who want a slave. So he's willing to be these things for others, recognizing how beings need help, Of course, all of this is open to, obviously, interpretation and discussion. I mean, to be a slave for others, there are nuances there. Yeah? We're not asking people to treat us like dirt or mistreat us, but I think what he what he's saying is that may I develop that sense of I'm here for others, rather that others are here in this world to serve me, for my to fulfill my needs. This one person, everybody should be caring for me. This one person. How about this one person could be caring for others? Anyway, then in chapter 4, conscientiousness, he's speaking about how if one does begin to take this mind seriously, then there are certain, conditions, well, not conditions, then there's certain principles we should not stray from. If we promise to help others and generate this extraordinary state of mind, then our behavior has to be commensurate with such a wish. So we cannot deceive others by then behaving badly and carelessly. It's one thing to betray one person, even that's bad enough, right? But to betray all sentient beings whom you have been promising to help in your vow to help them, you've included everyone. So then to behave badly is like betraying everybody. You will cease to be then beneficial for everybody, which you promised to be. So he's saying that is something very, very negative. We have to guard against that. If my being is impaired by destroying the joy of even one creature, then what need is there to mention destroying the joy of creatures vast as space? Of course, we may be a little bemused by this kind of logic, but it's like if we have mentally made a vow to benefit a lot of people, and then we go against that vow, it's like deceiving those people. On the mental level, it's a deception. Although, of course, nobody in the world has even the awareness that you've promised to help them. So it's very different, of course, from an individual situation where you've betrayed somebody who trusted you. But on the mental level of that wish and the vow, breaking a vow is something very damaging for consciousness. So it has to be repaired. It has to be understood, and it has to be, and we have to guard against it if we can. Nothing is irredeemable. Any kind of mistake we make can be purified according to Buddhism, which is good news, of course. But it's better that we don't make the mistake in the first place, if possible. That through mindfulness, conscientiousness, we don't behave in an inappropriate manner. Then, of course, again and again, he's reminding us of impermanence and so forth, like in verse 16 of chapter 4. Although today I'm healthy, well-nourished, unafflicted, life is momentary and deceptive. The body is like an object on loan for but a minute. Some of the translations are slightly different, but the meaning will be there. Verse 16 of chapter 4. Yeah. And then he speaks about how the disturbing emotions are like ghosts. They're like nothing we can really pinpoint, but they have such a power over us. Verse 27. Then, as though I were hypnotized by a spell, I shall reduce this mind to nothing. Even I do not know what is causing me confusion. What is there dwelling inside me? Although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither any arms nor legs, and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I, like a slave, been used by them? Verse 28. So this is a very interesting way of looking at it. Here we are being controlled by something that we can't really pinpoint, in a sense. It's something, it's not that tangible. Later he asks, where are these disturbing emotions? Where are they located? So he's getting us to think about these things and so forth. And, not to just go through life on automatic pilot. Later he says in verse 44 that it will be better for me to be burned, to have my head cut off and to be killed, rather than ever submitting or bowing down to these ever-present disturbing emotions, disturbing conceptions. So, of course, in Buddhism, the real enemy is our disturbing emotions, because they are the factor that causes to behave like delinquents and harm others and prevent our own happiness, create the cause for future suffering through planting negative seeds in the mind, cause of much suffering later on, right? But the good news is that unlike ordinary enemies, like people whom you may destroy or kill, their brethren, their descendants can come back and haunt you, you know, they don't forget. Unlike that, if we do rid the mind of disturbing emotions through wisdom and so forth, then they will never return again. They can never return again once we have cut their root. You know? But we can't do that with ordinary people, you know, short of destroying the whole planet, of course. But even then, according to Buddhism, in future lives, in future existences, somewhere or other, people we have harmed will be there, and karma will ripen. But with the disturbing emotions, we can get rid of them forever, and they'll never return, never, ever. So that's the good news. Deluded, disturbing conceptions, like Shantideva is now talking to the deluded states of mind. When forsaken by the eye of wisdom and dispelled from my mind, where will you go? Verse 46. Where will you dwell in order to be able to injure me again later? But weak-minded, I've been reduced to making no effort. He's saying if we make an effort, we can get rid of these things forever. But we're lazy, we don't do it. Then he reminds us we need to practice, the last verse of chapter 4. It's like if the doctor's instructions are ignored, then what's the use of having all the medicine, you know? How will we be cured if we don't take the medicine? How will we be benefited if we listen to wonderful teachings, but just, you know, then don't put them into effect through listening, reflecting, and then meditating on them? Then chapter 5, which is where we are now, these very powerful verses at the beginning of the chapter, that those who wish to guard their spiritual practice have to guard their minds. Because if we don't do it, then we cannot guard our spiritual practice. Then he speaks about how the disturbed mind is far, far more dangerous than any kind of physical harm, like crazy elephants or whatever example we want to use from modern life. All those things that harm us, they can only kill us. That's the worst they can do. We can die of climate change or wars or terrorism. That's the worst that can happen to us. But the disturbing emotions can destroy our happiness life after life after life through infiltrating the mind. Yeah. So, and also bombs and terrorists can kill us, but they can't necessarily put us into an unfortunate rebirth state. That depends on the mind, the quality of the mind. If somebody is killing me and I develop great compassion in my mind towards my aggressor, then that mind will cause me to have a very positive future. The person has just killed my body, but my mind has actually, you know, has the potential to either propel me into something positive or, on the contrary, to negative state. You know, if I have very powerful, negative, angry, disturbed thoughts at the time of death, then the result is different. So then later in this chapter, and we just finished that, I think, last session, Tuesday session, we were looking at these very famous verses. Verse 13, where Shantideva says, where could I possibly find enough leather with which to cover the surface of the earth? Yet, wearing leather just on the soles of my shoes is equivalent to covering the whole earth with it. Matlab, I can never control everything in life. I can't control even one person properly, right? I mean, apart from myself, it's impossible to totally control another person. We may have found what they think, what they do. We can't totally control another person. let alone other people. And, we can't have things the way we want it in life. There will always be disturbances. So there will always be, roads where there are thorns and stones and so forth. I cannot pave the whole earth with leather. I can't cover the earth with leather. He's saying the wise thing to do is wear shoes. By wearing shoes, we don't have to cover the whole earth with leather, right? So similarly with the mind, if we control our mind, make it calm, clear, kind, and so forth, then we'll find life takes on a completely different hue, different attributes. We won't need to be trying to control others and being disturbed by others all the time. So he's saying that's the great secret in a sense. The mind is the secret. To take care of the mind. Likewise, it's not possible for me to restrain the external course of things. But should I restrain this mind of mine, then what would be the need to restrain everything else? मतलब मन को सुधारने से सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा. मतलब everything will become workable. It doesn't mean the world will become perfect if I develop a calm and clear mind, but my ability to work in that world efficiently and without creating more confusion for myself and others will increase. I'll be able to, everything becomes workable. I'll not freak out at the smallest problem. Then in the next few verses, it's talking about the importance of the mind as the forerunner, as the intention aspect. There's, when we act, we may often forget that whatever we've done, even if it's something as small as, like me rubbing my face right now, it all comes from mental intention. Mental intention precedes everything, even if it's just a split second of it. So what's really important is what the mind is up to. That will determine the quality of the action. The knower of reality, verse 16, that refers to the Buddha. The knower of reality has said that even if recitation and physical hardships are practiced for long periods of time, they'll be meaningless if the mind is distracted elsewhere. Yeah? We could do all kinds of things, fasting and prayer and stuff, but if the motivation is wrong, or if we're totally distracted, or distracted in the sense by wanting fame or people to think I'm a great practitioner, and that's why we're doing it, then it's meaningless. Even those who wish to find happiness and overcome misery will wander with no aim or meaning if they don't comprehend the secret of the mind, the paramount significance of dharma, of the truth. So that's the great secret. It's the mind. And yet, one doesn't see much understanding of this around. I'm surprised. Well, I am kind of surprised. There's so many erudite articles appear in magazines and newspapers all the time, and some I'm very impressed by. But one never, hardly ever, unless it's a Buddhist publication or something, one doesn't hear people talking about the deep importance of motivation, intention so much, unless, of course, it's Journal of Psychology or something, perhaps. And one doesn't read about, say, things, basic things like, when people are talking about communal disharmony or something like that, how come authors never mention the fact that basic facts that everyone wants happiness, no one wants suffering? They never mention it. It's like it would be beneath their dignity to say something so basic and important. People are busy utilizing the jargon, it seems to me, that come with all of the different disciplines. If you're a psychologist or sociologist, you have your own jargon, which means a lot of stuff that ordinary people like me find a little difficult to understand. Why don't people say simple things in a simple way, basic things more often? But that seems basic to me, that everyone wants happiness, doesn't want to suffer. People need to hear that, I think, in those words. You may disagree. Fed up sometimes with clever articles which use very highfalutin language and somehow seem to miss the basic point again and again. But that's my problem. That's my prejudice. So, that being so, I shall hold and guard my mind well, he says, verse 18. Without the discipline of guarding the mind, what is the use of many other disciplines? I mean, really. You could think of many disciplines, much, we put our body through a lot of things, some people, grooming it, training it, going to the gym, spending quite a lot of time on it. Or we may be very happy with a certain discipline we have, getting up early or washing and brushing our teeth and doing everything on time and stuff like that. But what's the point if we don't guard our mind well? And then a very important verse, wonderful verse, 19. Just as I would be attentive and careful of a wound when amidst a bustling, uncontrolled crowd, so should I always guard the wound of my mind when dwelling among harmful people. Wonderful. That say you had an exposed wound or sore or something and you're in New Delhi railway station trying to get through the security part, everyone trying to throw their luggage onto the X-ray machine at once and jostling you and pushing in from behind, and you have a wound or you've just broken your arm and it's in a sling, you'd be in trouble. You'd have to be very careful, very careful not to get hurt. Similarly with our mind, when we have objects of aversion and attachment around us, we have to guard the wound of our mind very carefully. The mind can be so easily disturbed. And it doesn't seem to depend much on how many PhDs we have or, letters after our name. We're still susceptible to all of this. The wound over my mind. So I find that very useful. Similar to the kind of thing, the statement that when amongst other people, especially people who are disturbing us, we need to remember that from a Buddhist perspective, everybody is sick. Everybody is mentally unstable. Everybody is actually insane by a certain measure. If we measure sanity as, having a calm, stable, clear, kind mind, then by that measure, vast majority of beings on this world, in this universe, are insane. So when I'm amongst such people, and oneself is also insane, how should I regard others who are harming me or whatever? I should just say, well, that's how they are. I'm a doctor. These are beings are in my clinic. They've come for help because they're sick, they're insane. The other thing, of course, how do I expect insane people to behave? Do I expect insane people to behave well? No, that would be foolish. If you're in a lunatic asylum, you don't expect people to behave properly or normally, right? So I find this helpful. One shouldn't expect others to behave the way we want them to. Feel that they should always be reasonable, logical. Why should they be? Eruptions, disturbing emotions are going to be erupting all the time. So should I behave in such a way as this, then whether among harmful people or even in the midst of women, the steady effort to control myself will not decline. Sorry, Shantideva is addressing this to monks. That's why he speaks of women. If he was a great lady teacher talking to nuns, and she would undoubtedly say in the midst of men. So please don't chastise Shantideva for being politically incorrect. It is better to be without wealth, honor, body, and livelihood. It's better to let other virtues deteriorate rather than ever to let the virtues of the mind decline. So you can let your body deteriorate, you can let your tomato plants wilt and die or whatever we're doing. But if we let our mind deteriorate, then we're in big trouble. Virtues of the mind. We may stop, taking our protein mixture and 2 eggs a day, and then, our muscles may become weaker. And everyone's reminding you, oh yeah, you have to take more protein, blah, blah, blah. Of course. But he's saying it's more important not to let your mind deteriorate. The virtuous muscles of the mind. Physical muscles, yeah, maybe good to keep them in good shape, but not as important as keeping the mind in good shape. Oh, and now Shantideva is with folded hands saying this to us. Oh, you who wish to guard your minds, I beseech you, with folded hands, always exert yourselves to guard mindfulness and alertness. So let's look at what he means by mindfulness and alertness. The difference between mindfulness, Sanskrit smriti, and alertness, Sanskrit samprajanya, probably got it wrong, is explained as follows. In this context, mindfulness means to be mindful of all that one has accepted to give up and what one has accepted to cultivate. In other words, through listening to the Dharma, one then knows what is to be adopted, what is to be discarded. So actually, this is one of the true meanings of mindfulness, not just to be watching breath and so forth, but to be aware of what is to be abandoned, what is to be adopted. Alertness means to be skillful in applying oneself to this abandonment and cultivation. I think alertness is sometimes called introspection, checking what the mind is actually doing, whether it is actually being skillful, whether it's become dull, sleepy, whether it's become excited and distracted, and so forth. But anyway, Shantideva is making a big deal of this. He's with hands together, he is asking us, he is beseeching us. Beseech you with folded. What does it say in the other translation, please, Naveenji? Verse 23. Can you read it? You need glasses? Oh. Verse 23.
All you who would protect your minds, maintain your mindfulness and introspection, guard them both at cost of life and limb. I join my hands, beseeching you.
Yeah. There, those translators use the word introspection. Yeah, thank you. And then we could just look at one more verse and have some discussion. Very good. Next verse, verse 24. People who are disturbed by sickness have no strength to do anything useful. Likewise, those whose minds are disturbed by confusion have no strength to do anything wholesome. How clear, how amazing, the clarity, that verse. I haven't been looking at Pema Chodron's commentary. Those disabled by ill health are helpless, powerless to act. The mind, when likewise cramped by ignorance, is impotent and cannot do its work. This ignorance referred to here is twofold. The deepest ignorance is our misperception of reality, our dualistic perception. This is the illusion of subject and object, self and other. One early translator, Herbert Gunther, called it primitive views about reality. This ignorance is so ingrained we take it for granted, yet this misperception of separateness sets off an unfortunate chain reaction, creates a tension between you and me that leads to concepts of for and against, like and dislike, want and don't want, and all the rest of our misery. So this generates the second kind of ignorance, the ignorance of the disturbing emotions, klesh. Once born, our emotions quickly intensify, suffering increases. Thus, the ignorance of dualistic perception leads predictably to turmoil. Just as ill health incapacitates the body, ignorance covers the freshness of our pristine, naked mind, the Buddha nature we all have. The inability to see without bias and preconceptions clouds our natural mindfulness and alertness. Without a clear, stable mind, we live a fear-based life, so controlled by emotions that we don't really know what's going on. This is true. We just don't really know what's going on. Just as physical therapy can restore the body to basic health, shamatha meditation is the mental therapy that can restore our basic sanity. So shamatha, the basic awareness practice, starting with the breath, simply observing without bias, without judgment of good, bad all the time, simply observing what arises. Okay, let's have some discussion, if you want.
Mindfulness actually sounds like wisdom.
Mindfulness sounds like wisdom, Nitya is saying? Well, it's connected.
In the way it was defined in Shantideva.
Yeah.
You know, discerning between what to absorb and what to leave.
Yes.
That
Smriti. Smriti. Yeah, smriti is like remembering. That's the Sanskrit. It's interesting that the Sanskrit for mindfulness is remembering. We don't think of that when we use the word mindfulness. It's used so much, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone's using it now. But in original meaning is to remember what is to be practiced, what is to be abandoned. So that, of course, is connected with wisdom. So this is the one main tool that wisdom has to keep us on track. It's smriti.
I remember that I'm not. No.
Well, you have to remember it first. You have to remember when your mind is going off in a certain direction. My mind has gone off. Come back to the breath, come back to, you know. Oh, I've gone off to an anxious or lustful or an angry thought or memory. Stop, come back to the breath. Remember. You have to remember. That's how we learn.
Memory which challenges conventional memory.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Memory that challenges conventional memory. Conventional memory being the habitual, ordinary memory, which thinks it's great fun to, you know, to go off on a tangent or in a distraction. Yeah. Or even if it's painful, it's just such a habit we do it. Anxious thought, and so forth. Yeah.
Then the connection between mindfulness and wisdom is something like you have to remember that things are empty.
That too.
Reality is empty.
Yeah, when we grasp, we remember this is impermanent. It's empty of any inherent nature. Yeah. But of course, don't forget, Buddha has said several times, everything I have taught sentient beings is to lead them towards the understanding of reality. So in that sense, everything is connected with wisdom. Why do we practice, why are we supposed to practice refraining from harming others and behaving in a moral way? Because it's the foundation of awareness, concentration. Why do we need concentration? Because it's said that without proper focus, concentration, we can't develop wisdom. The mind won't have the power to engage in those meditations which help us develop the deepest understanding of non-self, selflessness.
How do we define harm?
Harm is something which creates unhappiness for oneself and others, and which from a karmic point of view, if engaged in, will lead to future suffering. Okay? It leads to harm, it leads to suffering. Something's obvious, like if I hit you or stab you, it hurts you, that's obvious. But even a thought to do that, or a kind of a greedy thought, or a thought that may be occurring to me that, oh, I'm teaching this text rather well, people seem to be enjoying. That's not a big harm, but it's not a wholesome thought. It has an unfortunate consequence. One consequence is that one could keep on having those kind of thoughts, and that becomes more and more and more powerfully unwholesome, until one may develop quite a complex about one being, really very good, so forth. So then that would be considered just aggravation, a building up of ego. Whereas the whole point is to destroy our egos, deconstruct our egos. It's me, me, me. More study and reflection will make it clearer. But that's the basic point. Harm is that which creates suffering. So anything I engage in, which is with a negative intention, creates harm. And actually everything we do right now, even positive actions, at the moment, because it's not conjoined with the deepest understanding of reality or wisdom, just creates causes for future rebirth within the cycle, within the jail. It's just that certain things we do will ensure that we get a very good cell within that jail, more comfortable, not with the hardened criminals, but with more sophisticated economic offenders, and then people who are there who shouldn't be there. So you could be having philosophical conversations with your cellmates, because they're actually very intelligent people who are put in jail by an authoritarian government, but you're still in jail. That's the point. So the point is to get out of jail. The point is to get out of jail. So what gets us out of jail is wisdom. And what makes us then able to help others in a deep way is compassion. But we need the wisdom just to get out of the jail. Otherwise, we can't really help others at all much from inside the jail. Of course, nowadays, smartphones and other means, criminals can still run their empires from within jails. But you get the point. Better not to be in jail at all, even if you're in a good cell. Still jail. No hands are up here. Okay, maybe I'll allow people to unmute themselves. Okay. Hereby, with the powers ascribed to me. Yeah. किसी ने कुछ कहना? Anyone online want to?
Just ask the question on that. Right now I'm outside.
Okay, let me read. Fatima, let me read what you put. Internal atmosphere is most important for a guarded mind, but sometimes external atmosphere and circumstances, like seeing death of a family member in front of eyes, can make a person's mind unguarded. He or she wants to take control back after the grief phase. How can it be achieved? Through meditation, through calming the mind. There's no external. Well, for some people, they say medication may be important for a while. If one is very, very deeply disturbed or depressed, then for some people, medication may help, but the real help is meditation, study and meditation. Yeah, you have to. There's no shortcut. That's the only way to build up the power of the clear and unbiased mind, is through practice. Yeah, otherwise mind just becomes very distracted and intellectual, and we have many thoughts and many words, but then the practice is not happening, so nothing much happens. You want some water or something? What's your name? Vivek. Good name. Yeah. You're looking glum. नहीं, Pradeep ji, ठीक है. Hope you're not having too many sad thoughts. Minoti, you wanted? Are you saying something? No. Minoti ji?
I'm thinking of, but I'm still framing it in my head.
Then don't speak until you framed it. It takes too much time. Sorry to be so short and rude.
No, exactly.
People go on for 10 minutes working out their question, and then it doesn't even come out after 10 minutes. So आप पहले सोच लीजिए, फिर बोलिए.
बिल्कुल, वही कर रहे हैं. वही.
Thank you. Hanji, anyone here has framed a question clearly or a comment? It's not, no, I know any answers. Vivekti, any thoughts, comment in terms of what you might be going through? Your experience of life recently, does it make things clearer what we have spoken of today?
I'm still working out a thought in my head. So when we speak about harm, because when Siddhartha was trying to go for his own journey, he did not listen to what his parents or what his family was.
Didn't listen to his father, yeah, Siddhartha, when he left the palace. So you're wondering whether that was harmful or not.
So is it always right to listen to the person, whatever they're asking you?
What do you think? Someone asks you to do something totally against your principles, your conscience, or they ask you, you have to marry this person and you really don't want to, and you know it's just going to lead to confusion and unhappiness, then what do you think you should do?
Shouldn't, but like as it said in the text, you should always be kind of extend your hand.
Help, yes. But are you helping others by making yourself totally miserable?
So
that's something to look at.
Is
Are you really helping that person who's pressuring you to do something that is going to make you unhappy? Are you helping that person by doing it? That's something to think about.
And make them also unhappy.
Later.
You are unhappy by agreeing to what they told you. They also realize later that this was a mistake.
It happened with several members of Tushita. Their family member or something got married against their will. Now the parents of both families are suffering the consequences. Everyone is in having a mela or suffering. Pura tamasha chal raha. Hi, mach raha. So you see, better to anyway think about this.
So whenever somebody is asking us for help, like our first judgment is, does it sit with me or not?
Yes. Yeah, sometimes we don't want to help people who actually deserve help, maybe, but there's a resistance within us. I find that very often. There's a particular lady in the market, very thin lady, not very well, always asking for money. And I often give it to her, but then sometimes I see the resistance within myself that I don't want to give. Why should I give? I gave to her yesterday. Why is she here again? So one sees that coming up in the mind. Whereas when I give actually a little bit, then I'm happier and she's happier. But there's that sense, why is she here? It's like you feel it's a conspiracy. Oh, here I am. Oh, how come she just turned up? It's like, does she have some special device where she knows where I am? But she obviously needs food and medicine and various things. So yeah, and of course one can't always help. The only reason I can give her money is because I have money in my pocket. What if I didn't have much money? I have enough money now in my life, but if I didn't have money, how would I help her? Then are there other ways to help people? This we have to check. By being kind and giving some attention to someone, smiling at them, is that a help? I would say yes, but of course, the person may react with disgust, but you haven't given them anything physical. Pradeepji, Awaken?
I think there's a verse in this text which says that it should benefit the other. You also have to, isn't there like your help, you should also.
Yeah, it's good if it benefits another, but it doesn't mean you can always.
If it is harmful to the other person, then it's not a help.
Well, you see, the person on basis of prior experience may expect you to put 50 rupees in their hand. If you don't, but you have a good intention and you ask them kya hal chal hai and you smile at them, then you haven't, from their perspective, you haven't benefited them. We can't always benefit people the way they want, but having a good intention and a kind heart as much as possible, that itself, isn't that beneficial from one's own point of view? Of course, there is that phrase, isn't there? You cannot help everyone. You can't always make everybody happy. It's not possible. Even the Buddha couldn't do that. But we can ensure our own mind is imbued with some goodness. What do you think? Welcome, Nivita ji, joining us from the United States.
Hi, Kaviji. Yes, I am.
United States is still there. You're not in the eye of that storm, are you?
No. I'm up north in New York.
You'll probably get some winds later. Yeah, seems to be
I assume so. It's
big storm. Okay, Apurva ji, you have put up your hand. You have to unmute yourself, otherwise we are not good listeners.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, just getting used to Zoom again. Hello, it's lovely to be here again. And I just had this one question about coming out of a retreat environment and being able to sustain and practice regularly. And just I'm sort of grappling with the idea of retreats and how important they are. I mean, this is not my first, but I've always found them very enriching. But I'm trying and struggling again to balance it post-retreat.
How long were you in retreat just now?
10 days, not very long. I mean, I've done most of the, I've done them only at the Tushita Center in Dharamshala. But yeah, I've done a few before the pandemic and now after again. But yeah, I find it amazingly enriching and just to be able to get the time and the space to concentrate on practice. But it is difficult for me to balance it after. So I was just wondering if there's any thought on that.
You've just done a 10-day Vipassana retreat, is it?
No, I did an emptiness retreat with Venerable Rolma in the Tushita Dharamshala Center.
An emptiness, retreat on emptiness. That involved discussions also and like that?
Yes. Yeah, discussion, and it was a residential course. So we were teaching, there was teachings for about 8 or 9 hours a day and about a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours of meditation a day.
Yeah.
But very concentrated environment with a small group of
Right. Yeah.
It
reminds me of my first experience of a retreat. It was only 2 days at university. When I went back to university after the 2-day retreat, it felt like a madhouse. It felt like a madhouse, I tell you. And everything seemed so loud around me. So yeah, there's no easy answer to this, except, well, it just shows you what the world is, what this so-called world, so-called reality is outside of these guarded environments. So how are you going to, protect your mind, as Shantideva would want us to? That's a challenge for you. What would you think?
Yes, definitely, it's a challenge.
Then you perhaps can't spend 3 or 4 hours a day meditating. So what are you going to do?
Yes, and I do feel like it is still really important, especially in the kind of work I have, etc. It sometimes really helps to just completely step away from it and immerse myself as much as I can. But at the same time, I feel like in the long term, I have to understand and better balance a practice that's more rooted in daily life. So, I mean, there's just, yeah, a bit of confusion, I guess, around that.
Yeah. Did the teacher introduce some of the so-called mind training teachings, the Lojong, the thought transformation teachings?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've done a Lamrim retreat also before this. So there was a lot of explanation.
So you have a lot of, what shall I say, methods available to approach difficulties and challenging situations. But of course, without perhaps some formal sitting practice in the morning or evening, things can get a bit difficult, isn't it? So maybe you need to continue a little bit with the quiet practice, at least a minimum amount. And then the rest of the day, you have to be utilizing, those gems of wisdom that are there in the Lamrim and thought transformation, such as the ones we mentioned, that don't expect people to behave according to your expectations or wishes. Expect them to behave like, some of them at least, like crazy people, okay? Because they are under the power of their disturbing emotions. So then you can develop maybe even compassion for such people to some extent. Don't expect yourself to always be on an even keel, Oneself can go gaga very easily. And don't beat yourself up for doing that. But just recognize that this is the wild elephant mind again that Shantideva is talking about. And so I need to tether it with the rope of mindfulness and alertness. So there's that. And then there was a friend of mine who was a very good practitioner. He used to do interesting thing. He would sit there in Bodh Gaya, especially in the market, and just watch the people go by. He would just watch all the people in the marketplace. And of course, when you look at people, especially in a place like Bihar, you see tourists, you see beggars, you see poor people, you see richer people. And so you have all this flow of humanity going on in front of you. And it's interesting if you're just watching in a sort of unbiased way, because you don't want anything from those people. You're not there to sell anything. You're just observing, right? So then it's kind of, what should we say? There's a sadness involved in that. And you get some insight into people, and so some people you watch and it makes you feel sad that they are the way they are. And, some people walking in a very proud manner, some people hunched over, some people have walking sticks, some people are old, some people are young. So that is also interesting to observe humanity, these people we're sharing the planet with. And the other interesting thing, every one of them in their own way wants some happiness and contentment, just like oneself. And none of them want even the slightest disturbance, So that can make one's mind at least, more positive and flexible, let's say, soft, rather than hard and brittle and, what the hell are these people doing? They're making a noise. And I wish there were fewer people in this country. Well, all of these thoughts that may come in one's mind, which, when you're on retreat, you're presumably not in a very crowded situation. And although Tushita retreats do have a lot of people. How many people were there on your retreat?
So this time, this was an intermediate course. So we had about 23, 24 people. Yeah, okay. That was a good small group. Yeah.
When you have 100 or more, then sometimes one feels there's a bit too many people.
Yeah, in the intro courses, I've been through those as well. I mean, it's lovely to have that discussion, but yeah, it can get a bit crowded. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, there's no magic formula, but just that's to protect one's mind. And that's why, one very simple line that our teacher has said, and which embodies the thought transformation teachings: when problems come, experience them with compassion. Not with impatience, not with anger, not with why is this happening to me, but with compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for others, for the other. Because we're all suffering, right? we're all in the doctor's waiting room in different stages of disease. Thank you. Good, very good question. I hope
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hope you can go into retreat again before long. And
yes, I hope so too.
Charge the batteries. Yeah. This Geshe Doje Damdul from Tibet House, he gives wonderful retreats on Bodhichitta, compassion retreats. Yeah. Elaine, yeah. You've raised your hand. Where are you?
Here. Kabirji, can you see me? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
No, I was just thinking of your earlier experience with the beggar woman who keeps coming.
Hmm.
Well, we have the same thing here. At least I do a crossing on my way to class. So this lady would come up every time selling these completely unusable and not workable pens, but it was just a way. By the end of the 10 days, we had become quite good friends. At the end of it, I was telling her, you might as well not give me the pen and I'll just give you the money. But the point was that little bit of friendliness, it became such a lovely chance to kind of show a little bit. And I also feel when the others come, whenever I get that thought, because that thought is very rife. Now again, I've just given and I've given that one and all kinds gave yesterday. And why should I give? She looks healthy enough and she can work. And this is all a mafia, all those things that come. And some time back, then I worked out, I said, this whole thing that Geshe-la keeps saying, train your mind, and the Bodhicharya Avatara, Shantideva. If we don't have a sense of someone coming to ask, how do we train in generosity?
Yeah.
There has to be someone who comes to, that I can give to. Otherwise, people at home are not bothered. I mean, and nobody's going to take anything. I don't even have enough to give the other people as much as they want. Here's someone who comes along and gives me a chance to practice at least that little bit of generosity that I'm capable of. Maybe 10 rupees, 20 or whatever. So I just kind of take it, try to remember that when too many people come along to beg.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, anyone else? Is that Isari, your hand went up? No. Faridun, Mohit. Mohit ji, yeah. Yes,
yeah,
Mohit.
thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I'm just following this group for quite a few days, and it's very enriching to have these discussions. And thank you for having me over here. So I just wanted to talk about I always heard that, or even in my practices as well, that we have to keep the focus on the breath and let's not get it away from there, right?
Yeah, on the breath. Okay.
Yeah, on the breath or any of the object that we want to choose, right? But I feel that to make that happen, it's like a very big achievement, because it's to start with, for beginners as well, it's a very daunting task. Your mind is very, very smart, I would say. It knows all the weaknesses. It knows, whatever guards you put up against it, it knows where exactly which thought need to put on at point of time to, make you fall flat face on the earth, right? So no matter how much you try, sometimes it's very difficult to discipline the mind. So I just wanted to understand, or if you can guide me towards a process, to go step by step. Okay, maybe, making that happen is like a 7th step, but at the first stage, what should one should be doing to achieve the last greater good?
What should we be doing to achieve what?
To the larger good. So for instance, if I need to focus,
good.
Yeah, if I need to make myself unable to focus on my breath throughout the meditation practice time, I feel that I have to do a lot of other things, a lot of other discipline as well. It's just not like that I can sit on the chair and it will work, as I say, right?
Yeah.
So is there any step-by-step guide, like a step one? Because if I'm sitting on the chair and just thinking that I'm able to achieve the mindfulness with that alone, I feel that it's very difficult. Yeah.
Step one is to realize that your mind is going to come up with all kinds of excuses and all kinds of comments, and not to take them too seriously. You don't have to believe every thought that comes into your mind. You have to also start with just short periods of 3, 4, 5 minutes of meditation, not more. Otherwise, your mind will get worked up, unhappy, and there'll be more and more thoughts coming, and then you won't want to sit in meditation. So short periods in the beginning, 3, 4, 5 minutes maximum. Don't do too much. And then, of course, as you're saying, for the benefit of others, many things can be done, not just to, calm one's mind or watch one's mind in formal meditation, but one can begin to develop awareness of one's intention, for example, every day. When you wake up, what's my intention today? Why am I getting up? Why am I, cleaning my body and brushing my teeth and dressing? And, what's my purpose? What's my purpose to go to work? Apart from money and, making a living, why am I alive even? You could ask, what's the purpose of my life? Or what can I engage in today that is beneficial? There are many things, step by step like that. Or if one has a particular disturbing emotion, which has been creating problems for you, you could think in the morning, how can I be more alert so that I recognize this emotion as it's arising and not allow it to take over? Maybe one has a habit of saying sarcastic things or nasty things to people. So then when can I recognize that I want to say this, and when can I stop? And could I stop that? So like that, step by step. Some meditation, some form of meditation. Some study is good if you have some basic good book, authentic book, literature. That's very useful. Very, very useful. Anything by, Mathieu Ricard, a French monk, or by the great teachers, Dalai Lama Ji, or by Alan Wallace. These are all very good for us, beginners as well as more advanced students. So that's something. Thupten Children, Pema Children, these particular authors, I think, very good. So like that. But as they say, remember to start where you are. Don't look at other people and think, oh, they're very advanced and I should be like them. First of all, you don't know whether they're advanced or not, because just because they sit nicely doesn't mean their mind is not in turmoil. And the other thing is that you have to, you are where you are. So you go step by step from where you are. Don't look at people whom you think are further up the ladder, further up the mountain. You just put one step in front of another where you are. Otherwise, we get disheartened, isn't it? Oh, this other person is much better than me. And one could feel envy as well, jealous and downhearted. And that's useless,
Yes.
And the other thing is we're trying to make friends with ourselves. So when you're trying to make friends with someone, you're kind of gentle and kind with them, right? You don't act in a very competitive and kind of sharp manner. If you one is more accommodating, more gentle. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And one thing, I would also like to talk about is when we say we have to, like desire is a root cause of all suffering and something like that.
What is the cause? What?
Probably the desire that we have for things. Yeah. But I also think that desire is also a root cause of all enlightenment as well.
Desire.
Because when we say I have to sit on meditation, it is also a desire in a way or not. It's
absolutely. It's an intention. It's a desire. Yes, it's a good desire.
Intention. It's a desire. And when you meditate, at any point of time, you also feel a lot of pleasurable moments, within your body as well. And that actually make you attached to that kind of, experiences.
Yeah.
And
That's a
and
problem.
the moment you get attached to those kind of experiences, they never occurred before, because you have to make them enable it, make it happen. You have to get away from those desires. So I feel that it's quite a complex mechanism that we have to solve as a puzzle. And
the main thing is to be relaxed and not to be upset by what's happening, and also to realize that anger and desire and envy, at the end of the day, as they say, basically they're all energy. They are forms of energy. So energy can be used if we know how to use energy. You don't have to see them as totally bad and beat yourself up for having desire or anger or envy. In the end, they are energy, and we can learn to, in a sense, extract the energy rather than the negative component of it. I mean, if we, as you say, if we had a life without any desire whatsoever, we would be dead. We would be like lifeless. We would be totally like zombies.
Yes.
If we didn't have any kind of aggressive energy, we would be very ineffective. We wouldn't have any sort of determination to get things done. So we shouldn't, although we are asked to be on guard, definitely against the disturbing emotions. Another level, we can also see that if we beat ourselves up for having them, we are also disregarding the fact that they have a potential to help us long term. It's like extracting the medicinal component out of mercury or some other, poisonous plant, which can then be used medicinally if we know how to use it. I mean, the point I'm making is we shouldn't beat ourselves up for not being more saintly or purer or further along the path, stuff like that. But also, of course, behave in a way that is appropriate.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Very good. We'll stop now, if people don't mind. Partly because I have to get up very early to catch a flight. Too much wandering around. I hope to continue these sessions from Deer Park. There may sometimes be a delay, in which case our new volunteer here, Namita ji, will lead some meditation to start with. And hopefully we can have our Sunday morning, I'm not sure. Sunday morning session, we'll discuss and we'll post something if there is to be anything. But Monday and Tuesday, hopefully will happen. We'll continue.
How long are you there for, Kabir ji, in Deer Park?
I'm back in Delhi on the 5th, I hope. Unless I decide that I would prefer to stay in the mountains my whole life, so then I won't come back to Delhi. I have to come back to pay the property tax. By June, I have to come back.
Wait online.
That's a good idea. Online, yeah. Yep.
For Rinpoche's talks, I wish we could be there.
Yeah, somebody's mentioning tomorrow evening. What's tomorrow? What's today? Friday evening? Thank you. Tomorrow, we have the second part of Tibetan Children's teachings. We had the first part last Friday. So tomorrow again at, what time was it? 9:30 was it? India time? 9:30, no?
I think it's 9 p.m.
Anyway, it's on the WhatsApp posting. It's been posted again. But thanks for reminding me of that. I'm supposed to give the vote of thanks tomorrow on that. Hopefully, That is tomorrow at 9 p.m. India time.
9 p.m.
Group of children, transforming intellectual knowledge into compassionate action. Yeah, that's tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. So hope to see some of you there. Thank you, Apurva, and everybody. And yeah, children. Thank you and good night, Faridun, Sujitji, everybody. Ayesha, good to see you. And Nevita, take care in the United States. All of you, thank you very much. You dedicate for everybody's happiness and welfare and to be connected with authentic teachers and teachings in this and in the future lives. All the authentic masters, teachers to have very long and healthy lives and to flourish the dharma to exist in this universe for a very long time without degeneration. Great texts like Shantideva's never be forgotten, but be studied and practiced by many, many people. And of course, ultimately, that our lives be meaningful for others. Even those who hate us, may our lives be meaningful for them. So, and thanks to everyone for, you see, each one of us has helped to make everybody else's evening, at least this hour and a half or so, meaningful, you see. So see how much we depend on others, the kindness of others. So develop tremendous rejoicing and gratitude and loving kindness for everybody involved, the people who are here at Tushita and the people online. So how wonderful it is to have such, Kalyan Mitras, Dharma friends. So rejoice and wish all of them much Dharma joy, happiness. Okay, everyone, thanks very much. See some of you tomorrow evening, probably. Yeah.
Yes.
Pranam Kabirji.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Kabirji.
Kabirji. Thank you. Have a safe flight and a good stay at Deer Park.